Welcome to Marketers Talking Marketing.
Welcome to another episode of Marketers Talking. Today we are joined by James. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, you know how digital marketing is important, but oh my God, it is so complicated and so confusing. I'm James, and I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to demystify digital marketing for six-figure business owners who want to use this powerful platform to build their business and create value for their customers.
I love it because I do think similarly that people can get really almost overwhelmed and make marketing more complicated than it is, and then completely miss some of the fundamentals that can be a game changer if they're done right.
Correct. And so often it is those fundamentals that are the ones that really make the difference. One of my marketing VAs was talking to a client and he was telling the client, you need to stop doing all of these things. And he's like, but I can't. And she asked him a question. She said, are you getting any business from them?
Yeah.
Big, long silence.
Yeah. And how much is it costing to do some of these tactics or use these tools every month?
Exactly. There was a very famous business person, Peter Lynch was his name. He ran the Magellan Investment Fund for Fidelity for years and years and years, one of the most successful mutual funds in history. And a business reporter asked him, so what's the secret to your success? And the reporter was expecting a long and involved, complicated answer. You know what he said? Water the flowers and prune the weeds. And you know, when it gets right down to it, that's marketing. It's no more complicated than that. Water the flowers and prune the weeds. If something is working, do more of it. If it's not working, stop doing it.
Is there one area where you see people get either super distracted by that shiny object that they want to try that might not be proven, or that fundamental that they just totally skip over?
Yes and yes. There is an awful lot of hysteria around lots of things. Like, for example, AI is the latest shiny thing that everybody is freaking out about. You absolutely should be aware of these things and think about them, but just put them in context. It is something worth looking at, but it's not worth betting the farm on. There's an old direct marketing principle that applies. It's as valid today as it was way back when I started. And I didn't start when direct marketing started. I'm not that old, but I've been doing this a long time. It's this concept of beat the control. So if you've got new things that you want to explore, that's fine. It's always a good idea to look at things like that. But set it up in a test environment and see, is this in a test situation performing better than my control? And if it is performing better than your control, then do a confirmation test. Double the test sample size and run it again to see if it was real. That discipline around testing is, it's something people lose track of and they don't do. But, one of the highest traction blog posts I have on my site is a blog post I wrote about testing. And it's one of those things that really can make a difference to a business owner of any size.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of marketers don't always know, and business owners don't always know how to set up and execute that test in a way that's controlling for some. I just think back to people running a test on social media and be like, you have no control of your audience. You're testing something that you're posting on Monday versus a Saturday. There's so many variables. And it's like, where do you even start with kind of building that testing rigor? So they kind of throw it to the side, but then I'll hear them say, and it's like, of the things that kill me the most, I'll hear people say, I did an A/B test, and then I'll look at it and be like, you didn't. You just did two separate things that you're comparing. Like, there was no control here. There was no methodology. You just posted.
Another thing connected to that we've that we are writing about, and that is adding tracking to URLs. The technical term for it is a UTM tags, right? You can UTM, if you see, and this is, you probably know this, but for perhaps people in your audience don't, but if you see a URL and there's /?, everything after that question mark is a tracking pencil. And somebody is using to track the traffic. And you can do the same thing. You can actually look at which posts are working. For example, a social media channel that we recommend a lot to our clients is Pinterest, because Pinterest is the only social media channel that rewards link clicks.
What do you mean by rewards link clicks? Can you dive into that a little more?
Yeah, Pinterest wants you to click the link to visit the site. They want that to happen. And if your post on Pinterest is getting lots and lots of clicks, the algorithm will feed it up higher. Whereas Facebook does not want you to leave Facebook. LinkedIn does not want you to leave LinkedIn. Instagram makes it hard to do everything. Pinterest is also a very important search engine. So a lot of the SEO tactics that you can use for blog posts, you can also use on Pinterest.
Yeah, so back in the day when Pinterest first rolled out paid advertising, I was in the first beta group of advertisers who worked on it. And so I did a ton on Pinterest, and I had all these boards that were just literally screenshots of ads. So I have a board that's Facebook app install ad examples. I just put essentially all my swipe files on Pinterest. I have not pinned on Pinterest since 2016, and I still get website traffic to this day off pins on Pinterest.
Right.
It's crazy.
And when Google sees that traffic, that helps your domain authority. That helps your domain authority in terms of other SEO work that you're doing. It's positive all the way around, and it's a great channel. Now, obviously, it has to work with your demographic. If you're an old white guy like me, and you're targeting guys in their 50s and 60s, Pinterest is probably not your channel. But for a lot of folks, it can be very effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a great little nugget of information for the audience to take away and run with. And when it comes to tracking, everything goes back to your website. Right. And pushing people to something that you own, that's yours, that you're building on, versus just trying to get them to engage. Like if you're trying to build your LinkedIn following, that's all activity happening on LinkedIn for your company, versus Pinterest, where it's, you mentioned link clicks being rewarded, getting them back to your website, and then you can retarget and you can do so much more with them once you have them on your own property.
Well, and the second half of your earlier question is the tactic that people are forgetting about and not taking full advantage of is email marketing. Because when it comes to digital marketing, there are only two assets that you own: your website and your email list. Everything else is rented land. And it's not to say you shouldn't be using it, but you need to recognize what it is. And LinkedIn is a great platform, particularly if you're in a B2B space and you're trying to connect with people in that way and build your authority, but you want to be driving them back to your list, back to your website, so that you can get ownership over that relationship and you're not at the mercy of the LinkedIn algorithm.
Well, the email list too is really the spot where people have opted into hearing from you. That's Even right. If they're following your page on Facebook, you're still interrupting their feed when That's your content's shared. There still is that kind of disruptive approach that most people tend to take to get traction on those platforms. With your email list, they want to hear from you. They're right. asking you to send them the thing in their digital mailbox.
Right. And if you reward them, if you give them value, like people, this vanity metrics is another thing that gets me crazy. The size of your list is not nearly as important as your open rate and your click rate. And do you have a plan for what happens if somebody clicks a link on a blog in your email and goes and reads a blog post? Do you have a plan for that? These are fundamentals. They are simple things to do that often get lost in the swirl of shiny things, because email has been around for a long time and people, nobody reads emails. I'm sorry, that's just not true.
The number of times that I have bought something off an email is pretty high, and I still am shocked. So I talk to marketers every week about what they're doing in a consultative way or just providing feedback and advice. And I'm still always shocked by the number of people I talk to who are doing paid advertising or some of these more costly tactics that don't have like an email welcome series or a nurture, or even you're driving someone to download this piece of content, but you don't email it to them. You just provide it on a download. Right. What if they're on mobile? What if they're on a work laptop, but they want it at home? Right. Like, send them the email. And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about it. It's like, well, you're missing such a basic step.
Right. And when you send that confirmation email, don't attach the lead magnet to the email. The email platforms will generally allow you to do that, but don't do it. And there's a really smart reason to not do it. You want people to open the email. You want people to read the email. You want people to click the link in the email, because the email service providers and the spam filters see this. And that registers that, oh, this is a valid email that this customer actually wanted. They took action out of that email. They clicked the link. They followed the link. They went to the page. They downloaded the thing. They see all of that, and that positively impacts your score with the spam filters.
Yeah. People, I think, also give Google and some of these algorithms so much more credit. They're not that smart. They're looking at the signals that a machine can look at. Mm-hmm. They're not differentiating between stuff that, can't think of an example off the top of my head, but they're pretty basic. So yeah, if you get them to click on your email and go back to your website, obviously that's like such a good signal, but I can see people kind of skipping over that.
And thinking, well, I'll just, I'll do a form, I'll capture their email, and then I'll give them the freebie on the thank you page.
Yeah, agree.
You don't want to do that. You want to use that thank you page to really reinforce and confirm that you value them as a customer, that you value their confidence in you, and share with them all of the wonderful things they're going to get because they've just joined your email list, and tell them that look for the welcome email, because there'll be a link in the welcome email that you can click to download your free gift.
Yeah. Well, I feel like people listening are going to be getting so many actionable tidbits. Do you got another one for the audience?
Let's talk about websites. Can we talk about websites?
Yes.
Okay. Your website is the most valuable digital asset that you own as a business owner. And it's one of only the two digital assets that you actually own, right? Your list being the other one. You work so hard to get people to your website. And when I audit websites, most of them are terrible. And there's a very common reason why they're terrible. And it's not copywriting, it's not design. Sometimes that's terrible too. But the most common problem that I see with websites is an absence of strategy. Now, I'm about to say something a little controversial. You good with that?
Yes, we're ready for it.
Okay. Stop saying call to action. Take it out of your vocabulary. A call to action is a marketer shouting at a customer and telling them what to do. Your customer is on a journey. It's their journey. When they get to your website, they are partway through their journey. I'll ask a business owner and I'll say, what's the primary objective of your website? And they'll go on and on and on about all the things they want the website to do. And then we'll have a little discussion about the definition of the word primary. And I'll say, and then they'll okay, conversion. It's almost always wrong. Primary objective of your website is not conversion. It's confirmation. Conversion is another example of a marketer shouting at a customer. It's like call to action. What the visitor is looking for is confirmation that you understand their problem, that you have a solution for their problem. So you want to support the journey that your customer is on and confirm in their minds that you are a legitimate choice. Conversion is still part of it. Conversion, you will get to it, but you don't want to lead with it. You want to lead with this confirmation idea. And then circling back to the stop saying call to action, most businesses, if they look closely at their customers, 80% of their customers, 80% of their sales are being driven by 20% of their customers. The specific numbers will be different, but the concept is valid. And in that 20%, there are probably 2 or 3 subsegments, right? You want to create on your homepage people like you pathways. Call out to your subsegments with a headline, with an image, with maybe a sentence or two, and with a button that they can click. Because when one of these subsegments, this audience sees that and goes, yes, that's me. Aha, that's what I'm looking for. And they click that button, they follow that pathway. 2 very powerful and important things have happened. They've told you exactly who they are, and they've given you permission to give them more information.
I like that second point a lot. Yeah, they're giving because they're continuing to go and look and engage and they want more. Yeah.
They're giving you permission to give you more information, and they've told you who they are. So the services that you're talking about on each one of these pathway landing pages, they might be the same services, but how you talk about them is going to be different because they've also told you who they are. So effectively, a pathway and a call to action are exactly the same thing, but the mindset shift is really important. And that's why I'm telling you, thinking about your website, stop thinking about calls to action and start creating pathways for your ideal customers.
That is such a fundamentally different mindset about thinking about that user journey on your website, creating the experience where someone can really self-select into the path that they want to go down to consume more content from you. It always kills me when I see people who have a website that speaks to like 50 different people, and you look and you're just like, what do you do?
Yeah, and how you're expecting this poor visitor to sort through all this crap, and figure out what's relevant to them, what's irrelevant to them.
Oh my God. And what all the jargon means.
Don't do that. Don't do that. When I'm back in the day when I was working in corporate marketing, I did a lot of work around loyalty and relationship marketing and that sort of thing. And I remember being in a research readout meeting where the researcher had done a whole lot of research on this client's customer base and loyalty and what made them loyal and not loyal, etc. And this guy specializes in loyalty research, right? This is Fortune 50 companies, so this is big budgets, big deal. And he said something in his preamble. I don't remember anything about the research study, but I remember this one sentence that he said in his preamble. He said, in my experience, 90% of loyalty problems can be traced to a flawed sales process. And that's where this idea of stop saying call to action comes from. All my work in relationship marketing, all my work in understanding loyalty. The loyalty starts with the sales process. And if you create a sales process, a marketing and sales process that supports the buyer's journey, you will get the right customers for the right reasons. And the purchase decision stops being a sale and starts being the next logical step in their journey.
It's like, oh, that intuitively makes sense, but maybe I got a little lost in it in getting there because of all these other things, like these best practices that people keep saying you should do that don't necessarily work the way people claim they do.
Right. Or like I said, a call to action and a pathway are effectively the same thing, but how you think about them is important.
Yeah.
Don't just take things for granted.
So do you have thoughts on people who opt to, instead of building I'm going to call it a fully fleshed out website with those different journeys and maybe different information pages based on vertical and industry and however we want to think about a fully fleshed out website, but instead they opt for like a click funnel squeeze page that's designed just to try and push someone through? I think we've probably all seen them where it's like 10,000 words, different sections, like one super long page, a million testimonials, and the price is always reduced for just the next 10 minutes to try and bring urgency.
Yeah, the marketing landing pages are effective if they're part of a marketing program, but it's not a website. I mean, if you're building one of the things that makes me crazy is people spending all kinds of money on these third-party services to do these pages when a well-built website should be able to do that as a native functionality within the website. The concept of a marketing landing page, if somebody is on their journey and they've clicked on an ad or they've clicked on some sort of response device or a link in an email, they're looking for an answer to these questions. Give them the answers to these questions. But a marketing landing page serves a different function inside your larger content marketing strategy than the website does. They're different things. You've asked an interesting question, and I'm going to go at this a different way. I often tell people who contact me, no, you don't need a website.
Oh, okay.
And websites is what we do.
Yeah.
But I will frequently tell people, no, you don't need a website. Before you spend the time and treasure on a website, make sure that people will buy what you're selling. And you can do that very inexpensively. MailChimp, for example, has quite a good functional entry-level product that's free. Part of that entry-level product that's free is a landing page. You can use the MailChimp landing page to put up a little message about your coaching service or your widget or whatever it is that you think people should have, and you can start sending people to that page. And if you can get some people to actually buy your product, then you can start thinking about a website.
Interesting. Do you think there's a trade-off where having a landing page would provide, where my brain is going is, if someone isn't sure if they want to buy and you have a website, they can go through and learn a lot more about you and become educated before making that purchase decision, where with a landing page it's quite a bit shorter, but you could still have a lot of information on it.
You can still have a lot of information on it, but this isn't a long-term solution. This is solving a very specific early stage need is, do people want to buy what I'm selling? And if you're finding that the answer to that question is yes, then investing time and treasure in a website probably makes sense. But guess what? You've also learned a lot from what people said yes to on this landing page, right? So you know how to focus. You're not just making stuff up and in guessing. You've actually got some history, some real life. My marketing BA and I were talking this morning about 2 different approaches to something that she's working on. And I'm like, I don't know the answer to that question, but let's let the marketplace tell us which approach makes the most sense. And this circles back to testing, right? But it's the same kind of concept. And I see so many people spending thousands of dollars on a website for something that they haven't sold to anybody. And it just makes me crazy.
Yeah. I feel like I'm somewhat guilty of that, except I build it myself, because typically if I have an idea, I'll go and buy the domain right away. And then I'll go and kind of build it.
But buying a domain is cheap.
Yeah.
And you can, with a little tiny bit of technical effort, it's not hard. All my content specialists know how to do it. You can set up a redirect in the domain registrar and redirect that traffic to a free MailChimp landing page.
If someone's listening and they have, let's say, an Etsy shop where their shop is fully hosted on this third party, it's not like Shopify where, you're kind of building it and it's going back to you, but they have an Etsy shop. Should they also have a landing page or a website to be able to capture that traffic?
Yes, they should. Etsy is a powerful platform. It's a great place to test. It's a great place to get some initial traction. It's sort of the e-commerce version of the free MailChimp landing page. But remember, you don't own the customer over at Etsy. Etsy owns. Yeah, and they charge a good amount of money. However, they're giving you a lot of value for that money. I don't question or quibble over what Etsy charges people for the sale, because they are providing a lot of traffic to your site that you don't have to generate yourself. So that's worth paying for. However, you don't own that customer. So you want to, and a simple thing you can do with Etsy is you can, when you fulfill whatever it is that they've bought, put a card into the package that invites them back to your website where they can sign up for your email newsletter, and then start making, you've got products on Etsy, and then you've got better products on your website. So you're using Etsy as another analogy that I will often use to help demystify digital marketing is the concept of, and I have props. This is the hub to a bicycle wheel, and I've got some spokes, and there's a rim here as well. I won't bother to drag the rim up. You know what a rim looks like. And by themselves, they're nice. It's a good paperweight, but it doesn't have much value. When you connect them together, you have the most fundamental invention in mankind's history, the wheel. The power doesn't come from the individual pieces, it comes from the connections. And digital marketing works the same way. Your website is the hub. These channels and platforms, like Etsy, are spokes. Your content and messaging strategy is the rim that holds it all together. When you have those three pieces working in concert with each other, because the power comes from the connections, you've got something that will really work. So Etsy, great channel for testing, great channel for lead generation, but you want to have a plan for how you can get those people to be your customers, not Etsy's customers.
That is such a great analogy and piece of advice. Great spot to wrap our conversation. I feel like we could go on for hours on this topic. James, if people want to hear more about your thoughts, work with you, where do they go?
Well, a great place to go and a great way to start would be go to 6secondsorless.com, and you can book some time on my calendar and we'll do a 6 seconds or less website audit, because that's the reality. You have 6 seconds or less to engage a visitor to your website, and there are 6 ways you should be thinking about each page in your website. We'll go through those in the 6 seconds or less audit. So go to 6secondsorless.com and grab some time on my calendar. I'd love to talk to you about your business. I'd love to talk to you about your customers. I'd love to talk to you about your website.
Awesome. And we will put all the links in the show notes below. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.